Thank you very much, Mario. It's been a pleasure to have you. I have to say this. You are a wonderful master of ceremonies. Thank you so much, and also very knowledgeable. Thank you to all for being here. I know many of you must be tired, but we have been really looking forward to this panel on environmental management insight. As our executive director highlighted yesterday, we are working a lot also to cover the environmental dimension of sustainability. And one of those core aspects is, of course, the protection of biodiversity, because there is, as we have with the climate agenda, we also have a biodiversity agenda. We only have one planet. There is no plan B, and biodiversity is the most essential resource we have. And unfortunately, through actions like pollution, like deforestation, we are destroying our planet. So we are working hard through initiatives like the Nature Positive Tourism Partnership to reverse this situation, to give back to nature more than we are taking from. A statistic shows that out of the 8 million of species that the world have, including insects like the fly that was attending our conference, and I think that came back, all these animals, these species, are at a really high rate of extinction, almost 1 million out of the 8. Apart from that, it makes not only a moral sense, but also a strategic one, because 80% of the value of our industry relies on natural and healthy ecosystems. So it's really important for us that we invest into that direction, and we look into new tools and technologies that can be used to track how we are doing on environmental aspects and how we can take proactive actions to take restoration activities, to take regenerative, that always have problems with that regeneration initiatives. And for that, last time when we went in Montreal at the CBD COP, where we launched that initiative that Soritza highlighted yesterday, the Nature Positive Tourism Partnership, for which we have here one of our partners, Glenn. Part of this initiative, within this whole framework, we had the pleasure also to meet NatureMetrics Tourism, which is doing wonderful work on environmental DNA. And of course, we also have our wonderful panelists here that we would like to introduce first, because they have such extensive background that is very hard to memorize all that. You know, as you can see on the screen, Nicole is the lead for infrastructure, and the fly is back. The fly is back, which is part of our biodiversity, so we have to let her go. She has an extensive experience, bring expertise on marine molecular ecology. That sounds very exciting, and also policy, because many times we have only sciences on one side and policy on the other, but she actually has a background on both, and she's been working on biodiversity conservation within the travel sector as well. So she will present us what they are doing from this company regarding environmental DNA, and help us to understand how the tourism sector can benefit from this kind of new tools and new technologies. We are also very fortunate to have with us Leslie Vella. Many of you are very familiar with him. He has over, I'm not telling you are all, but you have more than over 40 years of expertise. He's more than just a practitioner. He's a visionary leader that has contributed to the development of tourism in Malta. So we are very fortunate to have you today with us. And he's also been engaged in some new and interesting way of gathering data, satellite data, which we think it would be very important to reduce the environmental footprint of our sector. So we are delighted to have you with us today. And last but not least, we have Fiona, of course, from our Observatory in Ireland. They are very much focused on participatory approaches, how to integrate all the different stakeholders in the destination to strengthen the sustainability in their area. And of course, we also wanted to have, apart from hearing, of course, from these new wonderful technologies, hearing how our observatories see these new technologies and the future application to strengthen the environmental management in the destination. To start this panel, and although we had discouraged our speakers from using PowerPoints, Nicole will use some slides because we believe it would be important to have this information, which can be very technical, and it would be a nice way also of setting the scene into the discussion on these technical issues. So Nicole, please go ahead.
Thank you.
Does it work?
Are we able to bring up the presentation?
Okay.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you for such a wonderful introduction as well. So I'll start with who we are at NatureMetrics. So we are a global leader in nature, data, and intelligence, and we're making biodiversity measurable using environmental DNA. We're really on a mission to provide accelerated, scalable solutions that can then accelerate finance into nature throughout the globe. So we're making biodiversity measurable using our environmental DNA technology, which it allows a scalable solution which can be rolled out across various biomes throughout the globe. We're working in over 100 different countries right now with over 600 different clients. You can see over here we've got a fantastic client base, including corporate clients, those within the travel sector, regulators, governments, so many different clients now, NGOs, and we have global reach and local expertise. So I think this is one of the most important slides for everybody to see, which is how environmental DNA and biodiversity monitoring works, because it sounds like magic. For me, it actually blew my mind when I first started to understand a little bit about environmental DNA and nature intelligence as well, really taking that holistic approach to monitoring biodiversity. So what you can see on the screen right now in point 1 is the fact that we're all shedding DNA as we move through our environment. So you and I around the room right now, we're leaving traces of skin and hair. Sounds wonderful. And it's the same for the natural environment as well. So as organisms move through their environment, they're shedding scales, they're leaving behind feces, urine, all that good stuff. And that's what we're looking for. So we can take a simple sample of water, sediment, soil, even air is something that we're working on right now, and capture those microscopic clues that are being left behind within the environment and convert it using our laboratory practices, where we then extract the DNA that's sent back within a tiny sample. Our filters actually fit in the palm of your hand, and they're super easy to use, and that's one of the most incredible things about the technology, is the fact that so many people can use it. We even had our founder go out with a group of school children, and they took samples in a local lake just to compare the results, just to demonstrate how easy it is and how you don't need to be a scientist to take a sample. So out in the field, you would take a simple sample, send it back to us, and then we would extract the DNA, amplify the DNA, and then we match it to a reference library where we're able to identify the species that are found within that sample. And for many, many years, it used to stop right there. We used to send an Excel spreadsheet and a report to our clients, usually scientists and academics, and that's great if you were a scientist and an academic, but we've been working really hard to convert that data into something that's meaningful and understandable for a wide range of audiences. So we've developed a suite of metrics that allow us to now understand ecosystem health, which you can then track very simply with a number that you can see over time. Is the biodiversity improving at this site, yes or no? And it allows us to gather simple insights that we then illustrate using our nature intelligence platform. We're also working on the nature intelligence aspect of it, which is this holistic approach to biodiversity monitoring, which will also incorporate satellite data and bioacoustics. This is a slide just to demonstrate some of the metrics that we are producing. So I'm a marine person, so it's very marine heavy. But we have metrics that include species richness that allows you to understand the diversity of species that were found within the location you were taking samples. evolutionary diversity, and that's really important for understanding is an ecosystem healthy and functioning well. And we also assess all of our samples for threatened species, so IUCN Red List species, and invasive species as well. You can also use metrics within the marine environment that help understand things like, are there changes in fish of high commercial value, which is really important for engaging with local fishing communities as well. Understanding impacts to top predators, which usually indicate a healthy functioning ecosystem, as well as are there any changes in sensitive species too. As I said, I'm a marine person, but we do have a suite of metrics that help you assess terrestrial biomes as well, like bacterial to fungal ratios. We also have additional sediment pollution index, which allows you to understand polluted environments. And the reason that I put this slide in, which looks very complicated, is just basically to show that down here at the bottom, sorry, you can't see all of that, but down here at the bottom, these are the metrics that I just mentioned, and that's really showing you that the metrics at the site level, where you can then take these samples and understand at your site, you can ground truth that exact location, how they all ladder up and they meet the ever-growing global frameworks now, which you can use to demonstrate how you're meeting nature-positive targets or fit in with the global biodiversity framework. This is a project that's very close to my heart. This is one of my favorite projects. I'm very biased. We worked with MSC Cruises and MSC Foundation for a whole year to really understand if we could use this innovative approach to actually collect samples from cruise vessels to fill in ocean data gaps around the world. And we collaborated together we chose strategic locations around the world where biodiversity is rapidly changing. So we picked cruise vessels that were traveling around the Arctic. They went around Svalbard and Greenland and Iceland and all these incredible destinations. And we engaged with the crew for them to be able to take samples of the engine cooling water, which is a completely new approach and something that we were really proud of because it engaged the crew as well as those like within the sustainability team and the foundation to really get an understanding of the biodiversity that was present along the cruise routes. So we did a project that spanned 11 cruises over 3 vessels, and I think we actually, at the end, we found over 4,000 species, which is pretty mind-blowing considering they only took 1 sample every day along these strategic cruises that were identified. We found over 17 IUCN Red List species, which is incredible, including 29 cetaceans, so whale and dolphin species, which is a priority for a lot of the cruise industry to understand are there potential for collisions and the migration and movement of these species. And one of the incredible things about using environmental DNA technology is it allows you to understand the whole tree of life. So we say from bacteria to blue whales. So we were able to take samples from the engine cooling water, and we got an understanding of the photosynthetic phytoplankton that was in the oceans at that time, all the way up to the majestic sperm whale. So it's pretty incredible that you can gather that data so simply. And we were able to then showcase the biodiversity that was present along the routes as well. So this is going to have a lasting impact in terms of guest engagement as well as understanding the biodiversity that's present within our oceans. But I'll just demonstrate, hopefully I can get this video to work. I'll just demonstrate what the data actually looked like that we collected, because it's pretty mind-blowing.
There.
There we go.
Yeah.
So this is our Nature Intelligence platform, and this is the way in which we display the data. So you can see here the points along the cruise journey that were shown on the screen just then. They're where the samples were taken, and all the incredible species that were found along the journey, we're able to bring it to life using this Nature Intelligence platform. And you can see that we have information about the life cycle of the species that were detected. It tells you the IUCN Red List status, and you can identify what species were found within individual samples. So it's something that's truly engaging for a wide range of audiences, as well as being able to use the dashboard feature to track ecosystem health over time. Hopefully you can see that. But you might ask, so that all sounds great, but what's the impact? Why are you collecting this data? Well, we're actually, through a collaboration with the IUCN Red List, we're actually making this data available to them. So this would leave a lasting legacy of transparency and inform conservation decisions for years to come. So it's such an impactful project. And we also share that data with other impactful organizations too. Sorry, I'm having microphone issues. So we also have another project within the tourism sector where we were actually working with Exodus Travel. And this was a very citizen science focused project where they had a number of different expeditions around the world, and they wanted to take samples within rivers and also on land as well as at sea. During the various expeditions, I think they went to the Zambezi, they were in Egypt, Costa Rica, and they were able to identify endangered species along the way as well, like the Amazon river dolphin. And again, it's so engaging for guests to be able to collect that data and have this link to the environment that where they're at that moment. And again, it's contributing to research because we're able to share that data with the IUCN Red List to make impactful decisions for nature. And I just wanted to bring this project up as well, because this is a fantastic project where we were working with an organization in the Philippines that is protecting marine protected areas, and they were using this technology as a way to demonstrate some of their KPIs, which were to show increase in fish biodiversity as a way of showing the health of the restoration work that they'd been doing, and to demonstrate, which links to a lot of the potential nature positive KPIs that you might be able to connect the data points with. So they were looking at increasing fish biodiversity and demonstrating that with the use of environmental DNA, this is an opportunity for them to show that they're meeting their KPIs, which would allow them to gather more investment over time. So it's a pretty amazing project. I think, again, we found some incredible data. We collected some incredible data. We found 600 different species. It was just like taking a dive on a coral reef. So it was also really impactful because it's allowing them to provide comprehensive baseline data that they can then track the restoration, the ecosystem recovery over time. So I think I'll stop there and hopefully.
Thank you very much, Nicole. This is very useful.
Thank you.
Maybe we can turn this a little bit. I think the importance of this, as Nicole has highlighted, is also the feasibility and the practicability. There is tools, if you cannot apply them, then what is the sense? We have to ensure that there is case studies in which this methodology has been used, and you could see what were the outputs of the application. There are more case studies, and we have more questions for Nicole, but now we want to ask Leslie to share with us the experience that he has with this satellite data for reducing the environmental footprint of the tourism sector. We understand that you have been working with a company, with Murmuration, the French company, which actually was awarded an ESA Rising Star accolade because of this innovative use of satellite data to reduce tourism environmental footprint. So we would like to hear from you how you have been involved with this. What is all this? Because it sounds interesting, but we want to see how this can be feasible. The fly again, that is part of biodiversity, so we cannot do anything about that. Please share with us your insights on how this could be beneficial for our destinations for a more sound and more comprehensive environmental management.
Thank you. Just a brief interlude to say thank you to our hosts for inviting me here, and thank you to you and WTO for giving me the opportunity to be here. We look at UNWTO and we look at Mallorca as two very important sources of inspiration when it comes to tourism. So it's great to be here. Good morning to you all. You mentioned our project with Murmuration. The two stimulants that led us to Murmuration, interestingly enough, were COVID and climate change. Through COVID and through climate change, we learned very clearly that tourism is not something that works on its own. Tourism impacts and is impacted by many other factors. So during that interlude of the nightmare of COVID, when tourism stopped and everybody was wondering when is it going to restart, when will it ever recover, etc., we started thinking beyond the traditional way of looking at tourism, of understanding tourism. And Murmuration was introduced to us, and they brought data, information, knowledge, visual, numeric, time frame information that comes from readily available satellite data to help us understand tourism, how it impacts and how it is impacted. And the technology today is good enough to make it possible even for a very small place like Malta to be adequately studied in the right resolution. I heard speakers comment about the small size of Mallorca. We are 10% the size of Mallorca. And so I come from a very, very small island country. We are 30 kilometers long. We have an airport runway which is 20% the length of the country. We have over 550,000 people and 3.6 million tourists and 1 million cruise passengers. So there's a lot of tourism activity which interacts with the community. Everything is overlapping. Through Murmuration, we started off by focusing on three elements: air, land, and sea. Land is under a lot of pressure because there's a high density. We have a density of 1,700 inhabitants per square kilometer, plus the tourists. Land is infrastructure, land is built-up areas, land is agriculture, land is landscape. So we wanted to see land, and the variables which Murmuration measure in terms of land is the density of the built-up environment and temperatures, and more importantly, vegetation health. Vegetation health, which has a strong correlation with rainfall. And we see that during the year, the strength of the chlorophyll as seen by the satellites changes because, like Mallorca here in the Mediterranean, we have a green off-peak and a very dry and burnt brown summer season. But what we are also seeing, for example, is that over a 15-year period, successive winters do not generate the dark green which there used to be, which shows that plant health is suffering. Interestingly enough as well, for instance, one other indicator is that green areas in built-up areas look healthier than green areas in the outside areas, because green areas in the built-up areas are watered, whereas the countryside is left to itself. And if there is no rain, there's no way that it can be watered. So that's the land. When we look at the sea is obviously important to an island tourism destination. The sea surrounds us. We are very small. We're 30 kilometers long, 15 kilometers wide. And most of our visitors, whether they come in the summer or in the winter, expect the island dimension in their experience, whether they can swim in the sea or just be near it. And through murmuration, we receive information about the health of the sea temperature, salinity, turbidity of the sea, which could affect swimming, it could affect scuba diving industry, which is very important for us. Then there's the air in terms of air quality generated domestically through transport, through human activity on the island, but also we are in that very narrow stretch of the Mediterranean between Sicily and North Africa, where all the shipping that crosses from east to west Mediterranean and back passes. So we also notice a huge impact of particulate matter from shipping crossing the Mediterranean close to us. But there are other elements that influence particulate matter in the air, including Sahara-borne sand, which is becoming more and more prevalent. It used to be something that happens for 6 weeks around May, June. Now it's something that extends for a long time during the year. So with murmuration, that's the basic. The next step is how to take it forward, how to use it. We use it to extrapolate, we use it to understand, we use it to come up with scenarios, and also try to apply it to different types of tourism activity, which we undertake. How will rising temperatures affect outdoors tourism? How will differences in sea turbidity influence swimming and diving? How will sea level rise influence our small beaches, of which we have very little and we value a lot? How is the changing landscape going to influence the type of tourists that you attract in terms of the gastronomic experience, but also the landscape, etc. So this is an entirely new dimension which we have introduced, and I'll close by saying that originally we had a lot of doubts ourselves. We were traveling outside the normal comfort zone. We were going into areas where we were not meant to go. There were more capable authorities who were meant to be looking at these things. But through this, I think we are managing to demystify the science, that this is not something, this is not wizardry that scientists with white coats only can discuss and talk about. It is something that we need to be aware of, because ultimately, as I said, tourism, we have learned, particularly through COVID and through climate change, is something which has to be firmly integrated with a lot of other things rather than seen in isolation.
Thank you very much, Leslie. You have highlighted some very important aspects, and that's precisely why we decided to present this not new, but perhaps lesser known new technologies that are available for our destinations, for our observatories, perhaps in the future to use. And as she said, she presented so nicely. Of course, she has the background on biology, ecology, but I think it's very important that people know that this kind of methodologies and data exist and that they can make use of that. We will come to a second round of questions in which, of course, we will ask how much it will cost, because that is also very important to us in practical terms. But now we would like to hear from Fiona, as I said before, from the Observatory on Ireland. What would be your views on what you just heard, a little bit on your insights on how you see that? And I forgot to mention also that she has also studied the subject, so she's knowledgeable of the environmental DNA, and so she will be able to provide also some feedback from that side. But from the perspective of the observatories, how do you see these new technologies, these new tools for the future?
Thank you, Sofía. Thank you both. My background is in environmental science, so this makes me really excited.
Yeah.
I love the maps. I want to click into the sample point near Ireland. I want to check it, what was there. So my background is an academic. I studied at the Atlantic Technological University, and my new role is a Sustainable Destination Development Officer for Ireland. So very first role ever to be created in Ireland. Does anyone else have the role here? You're just looking at sustainability at a destination level? One? Yeah, good.
Nice.
I'd like, because if I was my boss's boss, maybe I would put this money into it and go hell for leather. Unfortunately, we're in an attention war. In my role, I will have to look at social, cultural, economic, and environmental insights. One of the big things that we've heard in the last couple of days is residents, communities. You have to be taking in what the issues are on the ground. Our number one, coming from our surveys, is transport. Do you focus your attention on environmental insights, or do you tackle transport? And that's what I will have to balance, and practicality, and how can we get things done? What is the cost?
Yes,
we all have tourism strategies. I'm going to create an action plan for the destination. However, there is a biodiversity action plan, there's a heritage action plan, climate action plan. So I guess from an observatory perspective, and also another big thing that has come from the last couple of days is collaboration. So in the observatory and in the destination, we now have the biodiversity officer, the heritage officer, the climate officer, and the National Parks and Wildlife Service. There's 40 people on the team. So where I can see some of these aspects being tied into an observatory is linking in with their targets within the parks, their kind of aspects that they need to work on. If the destination itself was to take it on, as I said, attention war is going on. So linking in really strong, having the biodiversity officer there, having the National Parks and Wildlife Service is essential. And that's the first team established in Ireland to actually talk around a table, meet quarterly, have minutes, discuss this. And we are the developed nation, very high GDP. So we're only getting to the table now. And you can imagine globally, worldwide, we have a lot of work to do. But I'm also hopeful, and I'm very excited by this.
Thank you very much, Fiona. Now back to you, Nicole. What I mentioned before, now we would like to hear from you. How do you see this enhancing the performance of tourism destination? And as I said before, what is the range and the cost efficiency of restoration projects? And what do you think are the lasting economic and operational benefits for tourism destinations?
I think to answer the first part of the question, I would say that I feel like there's a huge potential for this to support regenerative tourism as well, for you to be able to make data-driven decisions from data collected on the ground, which can be standardized and then rolled out across the various tourism sectors as well, and different operators and within their portfolios. So I think it allows us to make decisions on ways in which we can restore and enhance those ecosystems that tourism depends on so heavily, and also strengthen relationships with communities and guests, also with this kind of engaging technology that inspires people. I mean, we've even spoken about ways in which it can be incorporated into ocean literacy campaigns within some of the destinations and tour operators that we're working with. So it can really build and strengthen those bonds. So we talked about collaboration a lot, and I think this is a really engaging way to collaborate, is on sort of the tracking the success of regenerative tourism.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now it takes me also along the same lines, the question that we have for Leslie. After hearing this very interesting explanation you gave to us about the use of satellite for tracking, for monitoring, and ensuring that the sector is reducing environmental footprint, and based also on your extensive experience in our sector, what do you think is the role of converting this information into actually actionable intelligence for our sector to guide the environmental management of our sector?
Okay. Obviously, our origins as people who are practitioners in tourism, where that data used to be very limited. When I started, data was used for post-mortem because it reached you after the season was over. You couldn't do much during the season itself because you didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
Today we have data which helps us understand the present and take action in the present, and also helps us to think about the future and create scenarios for the future. So I think the role of this wider data set of data and the role of applying this data to decision making is a huge responsibility which needs to be taken forward, because we cannot complain anymore that we do not have information. We now have to make that next step of using that information in a practical way. Once we have demystified it, once we have made it available, once it is something that we can use, so that in the future, from now onwards, rather than the future as something distant, we increasingly take decisions which are guided and enlightened by the information we have at our disposal.
Yeah.
Because there is no excuse that we are groping in the dark because we have no information. There is a lot of information, and the more presentations, the more people you hear, the more you become impressed about how much information there is about everything.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Those are very inspiring words, and it is true. There is plenty of information. We just want to make sure, or have to ensure that this information is made available to our observatories, to our destinations. And going back to the observatories and to destination, to Fiona, now more based on your expertise, on your role also as a dedicated official for sustainability, how do you see this kind of technologies, environmental DNA, satellite use, supporting a nature-positive approach towards tourism? What is your insight on this?
I really liked this insight. I also think if we measure more, will we protect more? That's the question. I don't know if that's the case yet, but yeah, so I really like that.
Yes.
Nature positive. I think on the ground, a particular local level, there's some amazing kind of examples of this. I think it's important to remember why biodiversity and why nature is decreasing. Holistically, on the global level, it is climate change, it is habitat destruction, fragmentation, aspects like that. So everything that we've been talking about the last 2 days, carbon emissions, all of the rest of it, has to be worked on as if you were working in a small site and looking at kind of regenerative practices. The holistic aspect has to be taken into consideration always at destination. So more than likely has to be the focus. But I think tools like this can be useful. It's probably for tomorrow, maybe not for today, but I'm very excited. There has to be commitment. I think we have to get the basics right. If destinations are still struggling with water, waste, emissions, if I was to bring this to my boss, she would probably tell me to leave the room. So I think we need to be realistic. And but yeah, very, very excited at the same time. Big thing as well with information is enforcement. Something that we've seen in Ireland. If you have regulations, if you have rules, if you have measurement, how are you enforcing it? Do people have responsibilities, and are you actioning against it? That's also something to keep in mind.
Thank you very much, Fiona. We don't have much time, but I always like ending a panel with your thoughts on your vision. We met before Nicole. She was very excited about the vision for the future of tourism. So if you could say in a few words, what is your vision for the future of tourism on, your vision, your dreams, or how you would like to see the sector and how you will see yourself contributing to it, that would be great to hear.
Yeah, I always get really excited when I start to think about this. I mean, if we just take, for example, some of the cruise projects that we've been working on, if we're able to scale up the way in which cruise vessels and yachts and any sort of seagoing vessel to fill in ocean data gaps, like with the project with MSC Cruises, there's so much potential there, because we are then able to leave a lasting legacy of transparency and understanding our oceans and really capitalizing on the fact that these vessels are going there on a daily basis, year after year after year. There is no study out there right now that has the potential to collect so much data. So they have a real opportunity, and also a real opportunity to engage with those on board the vessels as well, and create the future marine biologists as well, by inspiring them and having ocean literacy programs. But it doesn't just stop at our oceans. Like, we can see this as a whole landscape scale approach. Like, you can use this data to understand I've heard a lot about agriculture over the last few days, and how important that is for a healthy tourism sector. Like, you can use this to understand regenerative agriculture approaches. You can use it to understand wetland restoration. There's so many potentials in which we can get a real holistic understanding of the state of our ecosystems that tourism depends on so greatly, and really communicate that to the tourists themselves.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Leslie?
Okay, I'll just say a few words. I think I'm by my very nature, I'm an optimist, and I see that given humanity's adaptability, out of bad things, human beings eventually manage to devise good things to be able to move forward. We carry a huge responsibility in the world we live in, particularly because of climate change, habitat destruction, all these sort of things, and all caused by growing elements of human activity, amongst them tourism. Being an optimist, I have faith that tourism's approach towards sustainability, being environmental, be it social, etc., is moving in a good direction. It's moving in a good direction. I like to say that our objective at this point in time should be of converting the term sustainability from an adjective to a noun. For a very long time, sustainability has been used as an adjective to embellish a sentence, to embellish a statement. The politicians like to use it for anything. It's always sustainable. But now we need to progress and change the use of sustainability into a noun, into something that we actually integrate in symbiosis with everything we do, so that at the end of the day, this activity which we believe in and which we believe creates a lot of good worldwide, minimizes its impacts and continues to help humanity and help the planet in a way which minimizes its negatives.
Thank you very much, Leslie. Wise words. Fiona?
Okay, I'll finish off. From an observatory perspective, if tools like this on the ground could be useful, the method has to be efficient, cheaper, faster, and it has to align with global, national, local indicators. That's the only way it's going to work, and people on the ground, it has to align to strategies and targets and KPIs. Otherwise, it won't get funded and it won't get resourced. I'll leave you off with a quote. I thought it was quite nice. I read it today. Technology is neither a savior nor a villain. It's a tool. Exactly. It will amplify the purpose for which it is a part of, but it cannot substitute for moral and political will. So.
Absolutely. We totally agree. We want to thank you very much for your participation. We wanted to bring these kind of topics to your consideration, because we believe that our sector, the tourism sector, has a very important role, taking the lead to create a change, to take action which is much needed to protect biodiversity as well as on climate change. And I think this kind of technologies, these new methodologies that are available and perhaps not much known, but are there, will be beneficial for our sector. And we invite all of you also to take a look at the presentation that will be available for all of you, and hopefully to benefit. We were very lucky to have this wonderful group of practitioners with us. We have contributed, they have highlighted the words that we have been listening along the few days days that we have been here, collaboration, public-private partnership, the notion of sustainability on the 3 dimensions, the need to have the holistic approach, the need to make sustainability at the core of everything, because as we said before, as Leslie said, it shouldn't be an adjective, it should be the noun, it should be the core of our activities. We are very happy also to see that Mallorca is developing their vision, and also to see how the natural environment is important. It's actually number 2 in the list of the most important assets that these destinations have. And as I said before, the fly is again with us, I guess, to conclude. Thank you very much. We are running out of time. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Big warm of applause for our panelists.